sports fans, and welcome to this edition of the Cavalier Sports Report. I'm your host, Anthony Juarez, and today I'm sitting down with JCCC fitness professor and all sports conditioning and strength coach, Istvan Javorek. Thank you for joining me today, Coach
Thank
Javorek.
you.
So, as I said, you're the fitness professor and the all sports strength and conditioning coach. What do you do as far as being a teacher here and then working with each sport strength and conditioning?
Yes, since 1987, when I came to this school, I was handling both jobs, and then actually my full job is professor fitness, and then a kind of volunteer job doing the conditioning for all sports. So I developed sports conditioning classes. On the beginning we called plyometrics classes, and later on we changed for sports conditioning to be more specific. And then on those classes we go from A to Z, teaching the basics in conditioning for all sports.
It's very important to be specific on your workouts depending on what sport you play. Are there any specific workouts that are maybe specifically for basketball or specifically for golf or anything like that?
Yes, how I mentioned, we do first a general fitness, because you need to build a base for a pyramid and then to go up further. And then as far they learn better the exercise techniques, because it's no dangerous exercises, just dangerous techniques. So as far as they learn well and then they can perform better, then we start to get also on specific on sports. So for basketball, for example, we do much more free hands work. They don't need heavy squats, they don't need heavy bench presses. Same thing for golf. We go all of those balances, eye-hand coordinations, and then a lot of obliques, abdominals. So we try to make the programs in that way that to be a general fitness also, in the meantime something more specific for those respective sports.
You have the title of the USA International Senior International Coach. What does that mean as far as the title that
Right.
plays?
That means that, because getting older and then for a long time coaching and then being in the international level, they call the senior international coach. Actually, it means that I'm not anymore actively coaching and in the sport. So I have those titles, oh gosh, since I stopped coaching performance weightlifting.
Another title you have is the emeritus coach of Romania. And what does that mean?
Yes, in Romania, the highest qualification for a coach, which is not coming for preparation, comes from performance. So if you develop Olympic champions, world-class international athletes, then is a special committee which decides if you worth it or not, and then they award you this status, which really is a lot of financial and social kind of benefits with that title too.
Amazing. So you are actually part of 3 different Hall of Fames. You're a Hall of Famer here at the school, then also the Missouri Valley Hall of Fame and the USA College Strength and Conditioning Hall of Fame.
Yes.
What pride do you take in being in all 3 of those Hall of Fames?
I was very, very impressed that I was elected on the first issue of college conditioning coaches. When it was created, this Hall of Fame for college conditioning coaches, I was in the first group selected. And then I was very proud of it, being an immigrant and a newcomer in this country. And still, I was publishing so much and making so many conferences. I was speaking on 9 National Strength Coach Conditioning Association conferences, and then all of them were very successful. And so I was very pleased to getting that. Also for weightlifting, Missouri Valley weightlifting coaches, developing so many athletes in the U.S. national team, junior and senior national teams, and then in the Olympic team. So that was the second issue why I got this title. The third one, the JCCC Athletics Hall of Famer, that was the decision of my colleagues that they were nominating me for that title, and I'm very thankful for that also.
That's very good. Whether someone is training with you individually or in your class, what are some common mistakes that you see the everyday people in your class making as far as weightlifting?
First of all is the technique, is because always I mention in my classes when I teach that no dangerous exercise, just dangerous technique. So I try to point on that for them and then force that issue that they must learn the right technique. The young athletes, they just ignore the right technique and then they claim and then they hurt. I mean, they are crying that they get hurt, but that's the most important issue in athletic preparation, to teach the base, teach the right techniques, and that's when I push with all of my athletes to be sure they do. And also the second one, doesn't matter how good is a program, if you are not doing, you cannot improve. They must do the program. And then several times it's pretty hard, but to get Olympic champion is not easy.
You've worked with many different people over the years as far as weightlifting. Who are some of the big names that people would know about that wouldn't know you worked with them?
Yes, so I was doing not just in weightlifting, in track and field also. I think I am, at least with my knowledge, I am the only coach who developed Olympic medalists in 2 different sports, track and field and weightlifting, and in 2 countries, in Romania and United States. So really I was also on my own a weightlifter and a decathlete, and then my spectrum is pretty wide on those all sports conditioning and preparation. And then oh gosh, in this country, I have Jim Dice, Wesley Barnett, Dirk Jesko, who were all of them member of U.S. Olympic team. Wesley Barnett was competing on 3 Olympics, and one of them he finished 5th, and then he was silver medalist at the World Championship. And then I was coaching Ed Kaminsky for javelin thrower, who was participating on 3 Olympics also. So on my individually, outside of the school, I was working with Coach Lafayette Norwood on Kansas City 76ers AAU team, and then years and years and years since 1988 we worked together, and then I was working with so many athletes who became later on famous professional basketball players, like Corey Maggette. He was coming from Chicago and in the summertime working with us and doing my conditioning, and then Kareem Rush, Brandon Rush, and then Jaron Rush, all of the Rush brothers, and then Wayne Simeon, Earl Watson, and you name it. There were so many of them who were involved in my program. So many of them, like Wayne Simeon and then Kareem Rush, still keeping in touch with me, and then they still do my programs. I just talked with Wayne a few days ago, telling me that he still does at least 4 or 5 sets of complexes 2-3 times a week. And then Kareem Rush, having a knee surgery and being very slow, his recovery, he came to me again, and then I do for him a new knee rehab, knee reconditioning program, and I hope that in the fall he will be able to play again in NBA.
That's excellent. So a lot of people locally here that kids have watched growing up, so that's good. As far as how does that help you in publicity with kids locally coming to you?
Really, I don't know. Is in my website about them several information, but in the meantime, publishing over 100 articles in different magazines, and then being interviewed in Men's Health magazine, in Muscle and Fitness magazine, and really volleyball, basketball, so many other different magazines, and then speaking on 9 national conferences of conditioning coaches. It was spreading around the world, and how I mentioned to you, I have a huge over 10,000 people who really contacted me, or still I keep somehow in touch with them. It's pretty hard to answer to everyone, but I try to answer to them and then to help them in coaching. I have young coaches from 1985 when I was in a conference, when I was at Texas A&M in that time. And then I was teaching them and mentioning to them that if they follow what I tell them, they become famous. One of them is Mike Clark, who is the head conditioning coach for Kansas City Chiefs now, and he's endorsing my programs and my exercises.
That's excellent. One of the things that you touched on earlier was going and being a part of the Olympics. What was that like, being a part of the Olympics, and how far has one of the people you've trained gotten in the Olympics?
Yes, I had already for 1976 Olympics athletes at Olympic Games, and then 1980 Olympics, 1984 Olympics, and then later on 1988, 1992 Olympic Games, and then so between them Istvan Tasnadi, Dragomir Csoroszlán, Wesley Barnett, so Ed Kaminsky, who I mentioned on track and field, Randy Barnes on track and field, Olympic champion and world record holder on shot put. So those names really helped in my career as to get more recognized around the world.
It's quite fitting to end with this question. After 25 years here at the college, you are retiring from a full-time position. Are you excited to have some more free time, and what's next for you?
Really I'm scared about the free time. And then thanking to the JCCC that I was awarded with Professor Emeritus, I will keep in touch, I will teach some classes, and then I try to continue as much as possible helping the athletic department, helping the physical education department. And by the way, about the emeritus professor, I was telling to my wife that when I will get my emeritus husband title, and she said, forget it.
That's very funny. All right, well, once again, thank you for Coach Javorek to be here, and I'm your host, Anthony Juarez. Please join us for future Cavalier Sports Reports for all things Cavalier Sports. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.